What's up, everybody? Welcome to the LeadHership Athletics Podcast, a space for athletes, parents, coaches, and administrators to help her, the female athlete, own her power in the world. My name is Coach Ashley Carter, and I'm your host, your mentor, and your coach. I left coaching the physical performance of the athlete after 17 years to travel across the country to develop the identity and the confidence that female athletes need to succeed at anything in life, not just the game. And listen, I'd love to come speak to your team or do a training for your high school, college, or university. So if you are an athlete, share this podcast with your coach or your athletic director, and also give them my email address, which would be info@leadhershipathletics.com. Also, if you are a coach, feel free to also connect with me at that same email address, which again, info@leadhershipathletics.com. By the way, I look forward to seeing you guys or working with you all in the future. But until then, let's get to the episode. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of Own Her Power Podcast. Happy 2023 to those of you who are just kind of new to the space, learning more about what we do. My name is Coach Ashley Carter, and I am joined with Dr. Stephanie Haft. We are directors and owners and all that great stuff of this company called LeadHership Athletics, where we empower the female athlete to be confident, not only in the game, but in life. So super excited that you all are here with us, to join in with us, to have this conversation. And we're going to touch base. We just kind of want to come back in and check in with you on our episode we had at the beginning of the year, where we talked about resolutioning and New Year's resolutions. So we want to step back in with you and kind of get a check-in with how things are going. So Dr. Haft, take it away.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks since we set those goals at the beginning of the year. And I was sort of reflecting on this idea of really life happens during the year. And we didn't talk too much, a few weeks ago about this idea of like how do we keep our goals going strong, and how do we maintain our progress when life happens, when we get injured, when we get sick, when something gets canceled. Oh, wow. Life is going to happen. Some of that could be in our control. Some of it could be very much out of our control. And our goals are still really important to us and can be affected. And I would love to share some thoughts on ways to stay consistent in the midst of life happening. So one thing to start to think about is really this idea of flexibility. So let's say that you have the goal of increasing your batting average, or even maybe running a half marathon. Maybe you've been getting more reps in the batting cage. Maybe you've been running more miles, and then you sprain your ankle and you're out. And doctor says you got to rest. 6 weeks, you got to rest. Well, drats. That throws a wrench into you taking BP time. That throws a wrench into your running schedule, right? It could be very easy to say, well, the heck with it. I guess I can't do anything for these 6 weeks. And I think that would be a big bummer. And most people do that. I would say a lot of people do that. When life happens and things don't go to plan, people kind of throw up their hands and say, well, like, this plan didn't work, so after the 6 weeks, I'll get back in it. And my question to for people to kind of think about is like, what are things that could be done within those 6 weeks that are still inching you toward that pinnacle, that goal, that in 12 months, I want to run a half marathon. Okay, well, what are those things within 6 weeks that could get you there in the midst of this injury? Maybe that's stretching. Maybe that's watching videos on YouTube about proper technique. Maybe that's, learning about proper footwear. Maybe that's relacing your shoes. Maybe that's connecting with other people who are running. What are some of those tangible things that we could be doing in the midst of that injury?
That's such a great example to provide to people, because not example, but a great theory of like how to work through something. It's actually a really great mental skill that I know when I work with my athletes, we specifically work on finding ways, like you said, in instances where there may be a delay or something that gets in the way. How do we continue to still build on our craft or our goal? So I really love that you said that. I think another thing that happens, sometimes it's not even as drastic as an injury. It could be something as small as, I struck out. And so it created this block in my mind that, I'm always going to strike out. Right. And so I thought about this idea as you were talking of, I always ask the question to our athletes, like, hey, is striking out bad? Is it a bad thing to strike out? And all of them are like, well, yeah, of course. Or, well, depends on the time of the day or the game. And as I was thinking about that, I was telling them, well, if you could get out of your own way a little bit in your emotions, you could start to think about what can I take away from that moment? What can I learn from that moment? Right. So, all right, I learned that either the umpire likes that area of a strike zone, or the pitcher is really good at hitting that spot and the ball is moving at the last minute. I can now take this information that I would not have gotten if I maybe hit the ball or walked, and could give it now to my teammate, and giving my teammate the opportunity to find a way to progress and move forward against this person. And then kind of thinking about when it's my turn again, how do I move forward? And I think what you're kind of talking about is this idea of kind of forward thinking and figuring out how to still work and make those steps towards those goals. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a strikeout is a really good example, because in many people's eyes, it's the ultimate example of failure. But people could say, oh, you struck out, you failed, right? And if that was connected to, for example, someone's goal of increasing their batting average, that could feel like a failure. Yeah. And so that's another thing I would really want people to think about and reflect on. Maybe the goal was to increase the batting average. Let's say that was the annual goal. And now we're noticing, okay, well, it's been a few weeks. Yeah. I'm just striking out every time, or a lot, more than I would like to, and that my batting average is not increasing. Well, maybe we need to adjust the goal. Maybe the goal is not increasing the batting average. Maybe it's, swinging with two strikes. Yeah. Swinging in two strike situations. Maybe it's increasing the number of hard contacts, hard struck balls, whether those are foul balls or in play, and kind of tweaking our goal. Because ultimately, when we think about our vision for where we want to be in 12 months from now, 24 months from now, 36 months from now, I would imagine that it maybe it's not necessarily all about the batting average, but there's other things going on there, right? And to kind of be flexible with that, but also really being gentle with yourself. And that's another point that I really wanted to bring up, which I loved that you, in your example, just kind of naturally shared this idea of like, yeah, I struck out and I'm going to use this experience to benefit my teammates. And I'm going to be gentle with myself and go after it again the next at bat. Yeah. That's really what it's about, and being able to problem solve on the fly. And really our aspiration in creating these goals when we need to adjust them or problem solve is we want to really cultivate this behavioral momentum. So maybe we failed, or we feel like we failed, or we didn't hit the mark that we wanted to hit. Okay, what benchmark can we set that we're going to crush so we can kind of get our building our confidence back again?
I love it. And I love the episode because, again, it's just, we all need the reminder. And I would actually ask you to save this somewhere and come back to it every time you need the reminder of, I hit this roadblock, but I still have the vision or the goal that I'm trying to accomplish. What do I need to do to get back to it? And so, Dr. Haft, just give them those steps in the order that you gave it without any interruption, so that way they have it and they can go and like live with it in their best life. So give what do you got?
Yeah. So really getting back to those pieces that we just walked through. So being flexible when things don't go our way, when injuries happen, when life happens, really being flexible to adjust as necessary, being gentle with ourselves as we're going through that adjustment, and finding new ways to create behavioral momentum, getting creative, and really persisting. That's what it takes. So being flexible, gentle with ourselves, finding new ways to create behavioral momentum, and persisting as we go through that process.
I love it. Such great advice. And I'm going to make sure that I save the episode for the moments that I also hit the roadblocks, because I think this message hits whether you are an athlete, whether you are, a professional, whether you are just a student. These are things that are really things that you can use in any scenario of your life. So thank you so much for that. And as always, I want to make sure you guys know that Dr. Haft and I run a mentorship academy where you can get these reminders, these opportunities to be resilient, or to at least talk about being resilient, to talk about the things that got in your way, and to be vulnerable and have the moments of emotions that maybe come along with that. And then finding the ways to work through those things and finding new tools to help you guide you on the way to continue to keep going. We do that for you. And we do that for you in our Mentorship Academy twice a month. And if you need a little more support, we also do some one-on-ones with you as well. And so if you are interested, the link is in the bio, as always, to join our Mentorship Academy. If nothing else, continue to log in here and listen to our podcast. We would love for you to be a part of our community at some point. So thank you so much for your time, everybody.
And the last thing I'll say is it can be really easy to say, okay, we talked about goals in January and now we're done until next January. No, we're going to revisit this conversation a few months from now, check in on how folks are doing, and recalibrate for the rest of 2023. So we're going to be talking about goals more this year. So keep at
it. Absolutely. And if you are a high achiever, you never stop visualizing and having goals. So love it. Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Haft, for coming on and giving us this game, this word, this advice, and we will see you again next week. All right, y'all, listen, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you were able to take some notes, and I hope that you're able to apply the things that we talked about today. So before I leave, I want to invite you to join our LeadHership Athletics community. It is called the Empower Her Community. It is a free space for parents, for coaches, for athletes to gain exclusive access to myself and to my team. I'd love for you guys to join, to be a part of our monthly live Q&A discussions, as well as the opportunity to learn information that you need to succeed. If you enjoyed this video, I'm always looking for a 5-star rating. So if you would be so kind to help me boost the ratings, I would really appreciate it. Go down, hit the 5 stars. If you are seeing this on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, subscribe, give me a like, all right? If you feel adventurous, also feel free to leave me a comment. But most importantly, if you've really enjoyed this episode more than any of those other things, I'm asking you specifically to share this episode with not just one person, but 2. Let's spread this knowledge and help all of our female athletes be empowered to own their own power in the world. Have an awesome day. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you next week.